Hello friends, welcome to Kavita's classroom. Today we are going to talk about subsidy, a very important concept for the students of economics. We will try to cover which all points here: the meaning, the importance, the impact of subsidy on producers, consumers, and the government, and we'll try to understand all the concepts with the help of diagrams. So let's begin. So when it comes to subsidy, what does it mean? Who gives it? It's given by the government to whom? To producers. Why? Because there are certain important things which are there in the society which needs be promoted, which is not promoted by the private players of the society. So when that financial incentive is given to the producers, it reduces their cost of production, and hence it results in increase in the output of the things, right? And how does it help consumers? It helps them because by subsidy, the cost becomes lower and it becomes affordable for them. And hence the inequality also is controlled a bit. So subsidies help in the production and consumption of goods and services in the society. It's given by the government, and which all are the sectors where we find the subsidies are given. We all know that government has two major important functions to do. One is the growth and the other is the welfare. Right. So whenever government is to promote something, the growth of transportation, electric cars, research and development training programs, MSME, micro, small and medium enterprises, other industries. And when it comes to the welfare programs like education and health, which uplifts the social infrastructure of the society. So all these sectors, the electric cars means which helps to promote the green environment, right? So anything of this sort, when requires some attention from the government tries to subsidize it by taking up some financial burden on it. So let's check its impact through diagram. Here in this diagram, we see that demand and supply curves intersect to get the equilibrium wherein the initial price and initial quantity is decided here. But with the help of subsidy, which is this much in this diagram, this vertical distance between two supply curves shows the amount of subsidy given by the government. Because of this subsidy, the curve shifts rightwards, right? Or we may say downwards. So with this subsidy, a new price and new quantity is decided in the society. So this is its major implication. This is its major effect. So let's understand its implication on all the stakeholders. Let's begin with the government. So when government gives the subsidy, what's the impact on government? It's the financial burden on government. How much is it for? As we know in this diagram that this vertical distance talks about the quantity for one unit and how many units are produced. The new equilibrium is for OQ1 quantity, right? So if we need to have the area of a rectangle, it's the length into breadth, right? So length is OQ1 and the breadth is this vertical distance. So let me mark this as K. So what is the total cost or the burden on the government? This is going to be P dash, E dash, K and P double dash. So this area talks about the financial burden or the subsidy given by the government. This is how it's calculated. When it comes to sellers now, let's check out its impact. So we'll talk about subsidy before subsidy and after subsidy. Before subsidy, what was the equilibrium? Equilibrium was decided at E by the market forces of demand and supply, and hence OP was the initial price and OQ was the initial quantity. Right. So before subsidy, this was the seller's revenue. So seller's revenue before subsidy was POQE, this area, right? But after subsidy, what happened? This much amount of subsidy is given, right, by the government. And now the point is OQ1 is the new quantity. So what is the seller's revenue now after subsidy. So the quantity as well as the price is enhanced. So it is P dash O Q dash and say this is K. So this is K. Hence, what is clear from this picture? That before subsidy, the revenue was smaller, and after the subsidy was given by the government, the revenue of the seller has enhanced. So, is seller better off or worse off? Yes, of course, the seller is better off after giving the subsidy. Now, let's understand the impact of subsidy on buyer. So when we talk about buyer's expenditure on the goods and services, before subsidy, what was the expenditure done by buyer? The initial price and quantity was decided by this equilibrium point E, and hence the buyer had P, O, Q and E as his expenditure before. But what happened after subsidy? After subsidy, the new price has gone down. So he is paying lesser price than before, and at the same time, he is going for more quantity. Instead of OQ, now he's going for OQ dash. So what is his expenditure after subsidy? Now after subsidy, his expenditure is this new rectangle, and the area is P dash O Q dash and E dash. But there are two more things here to understand in terms of impact on buyer. So is there any savings done by him? Yes. Earlier he had been going for OQ quantity, but he had been paying extra, right? So when we talk about savings, this area is a clear saving for him because now he is buying the whole quantity at lesser prices. So this is his savings. And any extra quantity is he buying? Yes, he is better off than before. So he is buying this extra quantity now. Right? So we have talked about the previous and new expenditure, his savings before, after subsidy, and the extra quantity which he is buying now. Now let's talk about the impact overall because of this subsidy. So before subsidy, this was a clear diagram of demand and supply intersecting at E, determining the prices at P and quantity at Q. So in this case where there is no subsidy, what is the consumer surplus? So this area is consumer surplus, which is between the price and below the demand curve, right? And what is the producer surplus? The producer surplus is this, which is between the supply curve and the price. So total surplus here in the society or social surplus is consumer surplus plus producer surplus, right? So what happens after subsidy is given? Now it's a bit complicated, but this will give rise to one more new and very important concept, that is deadweight loss also. So in this, see, before subsidy was given, the consumer surplus was up to this point. But after the subsidy is given, because now the consumer is paying lesser amount and lesser price, right? So this has been enhanced to this. So it means this area talks about the added surplus, consumer surplus after subsidy is given. Right. Now let's talk about the producer surplus. Producer surplus before subsidy was given was this triangular area of P, E and O, the area between the price line and the supply curve. But now after subsidy, government is paying the financial incentive to the producers also. So this has given rise to some added area of producer surplus, right? See, so this is the added producer surplus, which is between P, E, K and P double dash, this is the added surplus over and above the previous one. So point is, total surplus means consumer surplus now and producer surplus now has been enhanced. Is that so? Is the government intervention giving efficient structure, market structure, or reducing the inefficiencies? No. Though there is consumer surplus, some delta value was there before and there is some added value here. But the point is some value was here and some added value is here again, right, after subsidy. But why don't you understand that this rectangular region is the cost of subsidy, which is the financial burden. So try and understand this extra amount of subsidy, the extra amount of welfare is lesser than the total cost of the government. The total cost or the burden of the government is government surplus is in fact the negative value because it is the added financial burden to the government, and that is P dash, E dash, K and P double dash, right? And now if we just check out, when we add up all, so we are left with this triangular region which is yet not tapped. And this is nothing but the dead weight loss. Means earlier we had consumer surplus, but we had added surplus here. After subsidy, we had producer surplus, but we have added producer surplus here. But if we add these two extra surpluses, we still have one more area. This is triangular area, which is adding burden to the government, right? Because this is P dash, E dash, K and P double dash is the value of the total financial burden on the government. Hence, it does not give rise to efficiency. In fact, this is market failure, but government has to do it for the sake of other benefits for the society. So deadweight loss in this case is if I mark this point as E. So the deadweight loss is E, E dash and K. So this triangular region is the deadweight loss after giving subsidies. I hope the topic is clear to you. For any doubts, you're welcome. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. See ya.